So if everybody will recall, we as a board submitted questions to the staff back in February. That will be the primary focus of tonight's discussion. I'll allow Shashank to speak much more specifically about sort of how they review and evaluate these questions to determine which ones would be included tonight and which ones were really maybe more fiscal in nature, but not budgetary in nature, if you will. So that we will make sure that we get through all of them, but we may not answer everyone tonight. And that's the information that I received from Tom and Shashank yesterday. The other thing that I would offer is that we will have more time for budget. We don't have to vote to certify until April 5th, which allows us a few additional meetings between now and then. So as we get through tonight's discussion, I think the things that I would just maybe ask us to think about is what else that we haven't heard that we feel like we need to. Is there additional information that you need? And how would we like to structure the remaining budget work sessions so that we can provide clarity to the staff moving forward? So with that, I'll turn it over to Shashank.
May I just ask, can we have a copy of this presentation, please?
Absolutely. I can.
Okay. Could be posted as well on board docs for the community to see.
We can do that, Kim, absolutely. We can do that. I'm actually going to turn it over to Tom for the first few slides, and then we'll go to the business.
Thank you, Shashank. We got quite a number of questions from you all, which was appreciated. They were far-ranging, some of them very granular in nature, and some of them very, very broad in nature. So what we've attempted to do is split them into roughly similar topics. And so if you want to advance the slide there, Shashank, the first chunk were more specific to the business and finance office, although none of them are exclusively business and finance questions. And then we have a section on SMART goal.
Tom, we can't hear you. Sure. So basically what we have done is divided. Okay, Tom, are you back?
Health, a couple of ideas that we've inserted that may be a different approach to answering the questions because there wasn't really the right framework to answer them as they were asked, if you will. So with that, I'll turn things over to Shashank for the first number of slides, and we'll kind of be piping in back and forth with one another.
Tom, can you just we lost you a little bit in that translation of the things that you were saying. I believe you were saying that could you just repeat yourself just so for clarity for people who are listening online as well? Thank you.
Yeah, I apologize. The questions that we received from the board members were pretty far-ranging, and some were very granular in nature, and some were pretty global in nature. And so what we attempted to do was to group the questions together by general topic, and you see those general topics that we came up with in front of you. And then in addition to that, there are a few additional slides that didn't seem to fall neatly into one of those categories. And within the presentation, there are also a couple of ideas about how we may approach answering some of these questions with maybe a little bit more clarity if we reframe the initial ask. And so we'll try to highlight those ideas as we go through. So the first set of questions that Shashank will attempt to answer were those that were tied more specifically to business and finance. And the two of us will sort of chime in when we see the need as we move through these slides. So Shashank, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Tom. So the way I'll try to do my presentation is, there were a lot of questions. If you want, I can try to say what the questions were on each of the slides, or which is obviously going to take a lot longer time, or as I'm presenting through the questions that were raised and shared with the board, I would think everyone, it'll relate to everyone. So let me first try to just talk about the slides.
Is anybody else having difficulty hearing? Like, there's some feedback and it's very difficult to hear you.
So what I can request is everyone can put their mic on mute.
Hold on, can you, oh,
Can you hear me better now?
Try to work through it.
Okay. So one of the questions was, what is the total amount of the budget? And the budget which we are showing over here is a general fund budget of $460 million. There was another question as to, we had budgeted for 2% in SSA. And since the governor and both houses have approved 2.5%, what is going to be the benefit to the budget that we have shared? And that's almost $1 million over here. What were the immediate budget reductions that we were both having in the budget and what we would be planning going forward? So things like the break fix program, as we had discussed, would get launched from April 1st. And that is a program based on how successful it is, will stay with the district for a long period of time and would definitely be beneficial in reducing it. So it's not a one-off benefit. It's going to happen year over year as long as we continue with this program. We will always continue to evaluate the ability to move funds from SAVE and PEPL from general fund. All the levies, and there was a question whether we have leveraged all the levies. So all the levies that we can leverage have already been leveraged to the maximum extent possible. There is no further scope available to us to do it. And as I had shared in my budget presentation, there are only few levies that we really have control on. Otherwise, most of them are formula-driven levies. And the other was enrollment is driving the reduction. Now it's coming over there. Oh, I think, Jason, it's you. Okay, thank you. Okay, so it is the enrollment which is driving the budget, the staffing reduction. So is everyone tracking with the questions that was asked, or do you want me to repeat the questions?
I'm sorry, I'm a little frustrated, but I was hoping we would have had, I mean, I know that we have all those questions, but I didn't know if you guys grouped them. Some of them seem similar, or we're not going through every.
So you're right. What we have done is we've tried to group the questions from all the board members. And what I'm going to try to attempt is, let me try for the next few slides just to repeat the question that was put over there. And let's see whether that is going to provide better traction to the board, or shall we just go with the presentation? So let me first try to present the questions also. You think that's going to help? Let's try. Okay. So this particular question, this particular slide was there. This was from Terry. Are there any immediate course corrections that can be taken this year that can help stem subsequent year cuts? So this is a response to that, which is the break fix program, which does not involve any staff cuts. It's moving the repair maintenance for electrical and electronic items from general fund to management fund. The other one was moving the funds or expenses from general fund to save and paper, which the district has adopted for years. That amount is continuously reducing, but even this year, in the slides that we had shared on the budget discussions, we are moving somewhere around 0.8 to 0.9 million dollars.
Shashank, I would also add to that there have been some positions that we have not filled and could have as they've become vacant. So those aren't large numbers, but they're not insignificant either. I don't have a total on those, but those are some adjustments that we've made moving through the year as well.
That's true, Tom. The other question, Terry, which I think again was your question, which says, please confirm that we have leveraged all levies to our benefit in the proposed budget. And the second part of that is what I've already answered was on slide 12, you reference moving general fund expenses or savings people. Anything else we can do? So as far as the levies goes, we have leveraged all the available levies that we have, that we can. So shall I take this approach of seeing the questions and then the response? Is that helpful? Okay. Okay, so let's try that for the next few slides and see whether it's going to work. The other questions were any academic ROI evaluations completed as part of the current budget process? That was your question, Terry. And this slide has got questions from a lot of board members, so I'm going to repeat all the questions. Jackie had a question: with certified enrollment declining rapidly, are building cuts on the table in 22-23? If no, why not? Kelly had a question on slide 16, references 24 and 25 with reduction of $40 million. What could possibly be left for reductions? Any programming or strictly staff? And then there was another question which said, slide 15 talks about the demographic study in our budget discussions on February 16, 21. Kim mentioned an inform-only session confirming the RFP awarded to Business Information Services. So basically that question is a long question, but related to the RFP.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just don't think that this is effective. Could we we've given you our questions in writing. Could we receive those answers back in writing, both to us, to the public, give us time to review those, and then come back to the table and have a follow-up conversation? I just don't think you're referencing slides that we can't see. You're referencing questions that you've grouped, but we can't see. I just don't think this is effective. Anyone else agree, disagree?
No, I would agree. I mean, I feel like if there's a way you guys grouped our questions, like, is there a way that we can have the grouped questions and then we get the answers? And
What might be helpful, just
as a way to sort of expedite where we are tonight, would it be helpful to take each of the questions that board members, and for each slide, we have, these are the questions that pertain to this slide. And that way, we're able to take advantage of what we've already done, and additional work. With them that they likely are going to have to take the lump tonight because this did not just we had a discussion yesterday. And even beyond that, it felt like the time wasn't taken to make sure that the board's request in terms of their questions would be done. So if there's a way that we can marry the questions with the slides and get those back to the board, is that what you're asking for? Or are you asking just to take each of the questions? Because there are
6 pages of questions. Do we want to take each of the questions and do a response to each of the questions?
I believe that there are some duplicates in our questions, so I don't necessarily think that we need to be going question by question and needing an answer by answer. What I do want is I want a thoughtful here is the high level question, here is the answer. And rather than reading 6 questions, referencing a slide that's not being shown, and I'm just having trouble following, to be perfectly honest.
I think
So you're referencing a document right now, Shashank. Is that something that we can have? Is it something we can share with the community right now that's watching?
all of the questions that the board submitted. So again, what I might recommend is that you take each of the questions that reflect back to each of the slides, have the questions in advance of the slides so everyone knows how the questions have been grouped in response to the slide, and then provide that back to the board.
So we should be opening our shared document of questions to better understand. Oh,
That we would have in advance of each of these
Oh.
slides, a slide that says this particular comment is attributed to, this particular response is attributed to these 6 questions. And those questions are enumerated in advance of the slide. That way we're able to do a direct correlation with what we asked and what was provided in response. And then I guess from there, we can determine whether or not there are additional gaps or additional questions, or if the question was an answer to your satisfaction. Does that work?
that certainly sounds a bit more streamlined than what's happening currently.
So are we talking, I'm thinking about delivery of it?
So I would hope that they could comply.
Terry, I can't hear. Your mic seems to be off.
Oh,
Tom can't hear you.
I apologize, Tom. I didn't have my headset in. So my comment was that taking the work that the staff has already done, and in advance of each of the slides that have been provided, provide a slide that enumerates the questions that the response applies to. That way we're able to take advantage of the work that the staff has already done. We're only adding the questions that correspond to the responses, and then we're sending that out as a total package. Does that make sense?
Perfect. Yep, I can get that to you tomorrow.
Okay. So if everybody is agreeable with that as content, then I think we need to schedule a meeting for next Tuesday to proceed with the rest of the budget discussion. Yeah. Yeah. Is everybody going to be in town? Anybody on spring break?
I think that Jackie is still out.
Yes, Jackie's still out. Right. She's back on the 20th.
21st.
Yeah.
21st.
So if that works for everybody, Shashank, are you clear about what we want to do?
May we have the may we have the presentation in advance of the work session, please?
And as Tom had mentioned, we can send that tomorrow.
Okay.
And then on Tuesday, when we have the meeting,
Received tomorrow as well as posted to the public tomorrow, please. Or whenever it's ready to go.
Everybody amenable to that? Everybody available next Tuesday?
Yes.
We'll set aside an hour and a half for the meeting, and we'll proceed accordingly. What I'd also ask everybody to consider is after they get the document, if there are clarifying questions or additional information required, we should come prepared to ask those clarifying questions so that we can continue the process moving. Does that work?
Absolutely
What time,
committed to that.
Terry? Time, Terry?
5:30?
I will be a little late, but I'll join you all.
So Terry, I have a clarifying question.
Yes.
So if we are sending the deck, the questions in advance, do you want me to present slide by slide on Tuesday or basically have an open discussion where the
I think
board
we
asks
should have it-
questions?
Yeah, maybe we can go by category. So you've identified, 6 broad categories? Maybe we can be prepared to ask questions by category. So we are sequential and able to follow the deck as we're asking our questions.
Absolutely, okay.
Yeah, but I don't think that you need to
Yeah.
present at each
No.
slide to us.
Yes,
We don't
exactly.
need the need for that.
Yeah.
We'll do our homework and be prepared.
Perfect. That'll be great.
Everybody good for that?
Yes,
Okay,
much
great.
better use.
Thank you.
No problem.